Hey church, it's Wednesday again, and that means it's time for another installment of our video blog where we're taking questions from the Sunday sermon and trying to answer them, getting in a little bit more in depth into what's happening and what questions you might have a little bit about it. As we carried on in our series through Hebrews, we worked through the first half of chapter 11, talking about faith, what faith is, what faith isn't, what it does, and what it doesn't do. And the question came in, what does Matthew 17:20 mean? Now, this is the passage where Jesus tells his disciples this. For truly I say to you, if you have faith like a grain of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. So what does that mean? Does that mean that I can literally move mountains by my faith, and that if I can't literally move mountains by my faith, then my faith isn't genuine? Is that what that means? Well, in order to really get at what this passage, or really any passage of Scripture means, we need to look at it in context. And so Jesus is with Peter and James and John, and they had just come down from an actual mountain where they saw Jesus transfigured in front of them, and they heard the voice of God speak, saying, "This is my Son, in whom I am well pleased." And so they see that incredible thing happen, and they go down the mountain, and they meet a man who has a child who is demon-possessed. And this guy tells Jesus that no one could heal his kid, even the disciples. Now, sometime before this moment, Jesus had given the disciples the authority to do that very thing, to cast out demons. Yet they couldn't get the job done with this child. And so Jesus laments at the weak sauce faith of the world, and then he casts the demons out himself. And the disciples were standing there in awe after seeing this, and they're wondering why the demons wouldn't listen to them. And they asked Jesus, why can't we do it? Why wouldn't the demon listen to us? And this is where Jesus makes this mustard seed mountain statement in verse 20. He says their faith is too small. He said if it were just even the size of a mustard seed, they would be able to move this mountain. What do we make of that? Well, you see, the Bible employs many forms of literature, just like we use in our language every day today. We use metaphors, irony, similes, hyperbole, all that stuff and more. So how do we interpret what Jesus is saying here? Well, from the context of what is happening in this moment, Jesus is being asked by his disciples why they couldn't do something that he said they could do. It's fairly clear to me that the mountain Jesus is referring to is. So how do we interpret what Jesus is saying here? Well, from the context of what is happening in this moment, Jesus being asked by his disciples why they couldn't do something he told them that they could do, it's fairly clear to me that the mountain Jesus is referring to is very likely the seemingly impossible task of casting out this demon. He told them that if their faith was stronger, they could have simply told the demon to leave and it would have left. Jesus isn't telling them that having just an ounce of faith can move literal physical mountains from their footings, even though if God wanted to do that, I'm sure he'd have no problem. What he's telling the disciples plainly is that faith, even a little bit of faith, can overcome enormous, seemingly impossible obstacles in their lives. That's what Matthew 17:20 is all about. I hope that was helpful, and I pray that you experience Jesus moving mountains in your life as your faith in him grows each day. Until next time, be a witness.